Hi guys, this video is aimed mostly for Second Life users and those who want to create texture clothing but have never done so before. The information I am giving may also be useful for other grids and product types. There are two parts to this video. Part 1 of this video is going to involve setting up nodes to create texture layers in Blender. Part 2 of this video is going to be about how to switch from layer to layer so that you're always painting on the layer you intend to paint on. I have Blender already open here, and I'm going to just show you to change to cycles mode. I'm going to get rid of this cube by hitting delete. I'm using Avastar. So I'm going to add just the basic model because I don't need the extended rig. I just need the body. Now the next step after you have this loaded is to select a part of the body that you want to texture and make clothing for. I'm actually going to go over here and turn off this part because that's the rigging. I don't need the rigging. I don't need to see the rigging. So if I select the top half of the body, now just a note here, whatever you do to the top half of the body, you have to go back and do to the lower half of the body if you want to texture the whole body. Same thing for the head. If it's a mesh body, you might have the hands and the feet. And also for this, you can do the eyelashes and the eyes. So now that I have the part selected, I'm going to go into edit mode. So in edit mode, I want to select all of the faces. So I'm just going to put faces. It doesn't matter whether you have faces, points, lines, it doesn't matter. So I have nothing selected, so I'm going to hit A to select all. I'm just going to mention again that some of you might want to use your dev kits for mesh bodies. Just keep in mind that once you have that dev kit open and all the parts selected there, the faces selected, if your upper body doesn't look like this and some of the mesh UVs are hanging off of this window, it's not going to be a body that you want to use this method for. It's not going to work for this. While we are in edit mode, you need to select all of those faces as I'm showing you here. You can do that by having your mouse pointer over the edit window and just typing A as described. Then we're going to move on to step 4. Once we've got everything selected, we are going to add a UV layer. Now there's already one here because you have this UV map. This is already unwrapped. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to this data object, this object data window. And this is in this, usually this window is by default over on this side, so on the right hand side. So I'm going to click this tab, and this is the properties. The object properties window. Okay, so in the object data window, I'm going to scroll down. It's not open. I don't want the shapes. I want the UV map tab. Okay, so when you get to the UV map tab, because this is a Second Life avatar, there's already a UV map there that says SL map. That is your base where your base texture is going to be. So this will be your base layer. Now we want to add, by clicking the plus sign, another layer. This is going to say UV map. This is going to be the layer that you're actually going to paint on. And if you want any additional layers, excuse me, any additional layers that you may need, you can also make maps for those, such as, let's say you want the shirt map for the basic fabric, and then you want a shadow map and a highlight map. And you can do that by just clicking the plus sign and adding those additional maps. I'm going to add one more just so that you can see how that's going to work out. Now this one I want to rename, so I'm going to double click, and it highlights the name of the map, and this one I'm going to name shirt. Okay, this is going to help me keep track of which map I'm working on. And I'm going to rename this one to shadows. Shadow. Okay, now that I have these two maps set up, I'm going to go to the material window. And the reason why I have to go here is because right now there is a default material set to the entire body, but I want a material that is specific for this part of the body. So you can do this by clicking the plus sign here in the material window, and then add new. I'm going to rename this material to shirt, and you can see that it changed there. And then I'm going to hit assign. This is going to assign everything that's selected in this window in the edit. And mind you, I haven't left the edit mode. So you're going to stay in edit mode all the way up through this part. Okay. So once I have this part and I have all these faces assigned to this material, and you want to make sure nothing was deselected in this process, because if it was deselected when you hit assigned, it won't be part of that material. Now you can figure out whether or not you have it selected by just doing this. Deselect will unselect all of those particular faces, and select will select them again. Okay. So now that I have that done, if you want to, at this point, you can actually leave the edit mode and go back to object mode. Now that you have the material set up, you need to add your images for texturing. You can do this in two ways. You can add a base material that you already have. Maybe you want to use the template for the avatar. Maybe you want to use a skin color. Maybe you actually want to use a skin texture that you already have. You can do that by clicking the open and selecting that image from your file folders. I'm not going to use that in this case. I'm not going to use a template at this point. I'm just going to create a new texture. So I'm going to go down here and click new, and you get this window that pops up. you can name the texture. So I'm going to name this one Skin. And I'm going to leave it the 1024 by 1024. I'm going to choose a color that is close to a skin color. So something neutral default. Okay, so there's my skin. I need also another image for my shirt and my shadow. And both of those images are going to be transparent, but they don't give you an option for a transparent texture. So I'm going to show you how to do that here. So I'm going to just add another one. This one's for shirt. I'm going to leave it at the 1024 by 1024. The color on this image isn't going to matter. So I could choose any color under the sun. It doesn't matter. I'm going to erase it anyway. Let me see. Yeah, there's nothing else I can do with that. So I can't make it transparent this way. So I'm going to add that one. And I'm going to add an additional one for shadow. Okay, so I have 3 textures on here. And you'll see them pop up. I have some other ones in the background here. But I think it's the ones that come with Avastar. So there's a skin, there's a shirt, and there's a shadow. So if I choose a shadow, now I'm going to make it transparent. And the way that you do that is you're going to go into paint mode in this window, in this UV image editor window. Okay. And usually your paint tools, I've got too many tabs up there, will come available. Usually that's the first thing that'll pop up, but I've got other add-ons that are showing, so it's not actually showing it very well. So I'm going to click the little plus button here on the side. That opens that window for the tools down here in this window. And in case it's not selected, which it generally is by default, the F-Text Draw is the tool that you want to use. You're going to go down here below your radius and below your radius and strength, and choose in the blend mode, you're going to choose Erase Alphas. Then you're going to change your radius up to about 50 or 60. You can go higher. It just depends on what your system is capable of handling before it becomes laggy. And you're also going to change your strength to full, which is 1.000. And then just start erasing. So you just erase. I'm going to turn this up just for the sake of erasing all of this quickly. So just erase the whole window. Now you have your transparent texture and it's ready to go. So I'm done with the shirt texture, but I want to do the same thing to the shadow texture. So I'm just going to switch to the shadow texture and do the same thing. Kind of sloppy there, but you get the idea. Okay, so that is all set up now. Now I can leave the paint mode and go back to view mode. And I no longer need that window open, so I'm going to push that over. Now I'm going to switch to the node editor window. And I have the shadow texture. Let's see. I need this window open. Okay. So I have a shirt material. In the material data window, I have the shirt material selected, which is going to be on the top part of the body. But I need to add 3 more nodes. You see diffuse and material output here, but I also need UV map nodes image texture nodes and a mix shader node. You add these by going down here to add. The first one that I'm going to add is the image texture, which will be found under textures and image texture. There's my node. This one I'm going to make my skin color, and I'm going to add that one to color. But that would be fine if that's all I'm going to do. And I'm going to switch this upper window here, the 3D window, to material view, and you can see that now that color is attached to this upper part of the body. If I drag this down, you'll see the rest of it is not. Okay. So that would be fine if the only thing I was going to do was use that one image. And usually if you add an image here in this window in your diffuse, that's what happens. This is what you get. But we want it to be on a specific UV map. So we're going to add in the input the UV map. And we're going to select which UV map we want. So we want the SL map as the base map. Alright, no problem. We're ready there. But we need the other layer. And how do we connect it? Well, we need a mix shader for that. So we're going to go under shader and go to mix shader. And we're going to put it here. And we're going to actually move these two over, because this is going to go there. And the color map, the color is going to go on the top. So the base color goes on the top, and then we're going to add our shirt layer. So let's add another image. So there's another texture image and another input mesh, so we can tell it which UV layer it's going to be on. Sorry, mesh. UV map. Okay, so there's the UV map and the texture image node. This is going to be my shirt layer. And from here, I'm going to choose shirt. Oh, that's skin. Sorry, shirt. I'm going to add this here. Then I'm going to put this here, and I'm going to put the alpha into the faces. So what you end up having is something like this. And this is usually how I remember how to do this every time. I will put the base on the bottom. The base texture and all of its nodes are on the bottom. But this node will always go on the top input shader for the mix shader. And these will always be your end results. Okay? And then I'm going to put the next layer up will go up a layer. So I'll put that above my base color. And this one on the color wise always attaches to the bottom of your mix shader. So this is the bottom of that mix shader, and you have the UV maps for each one. But we also said we wanted a layer for shadows. So I'm going to add two more. I'm going to add the input of the UV map and the texture image. So we're getting a little smaller here, and I know you can't read those things, but you know what they are now. So I'm going to drag this down some more. And this one down some more. So again, I'm going to choose, let me scroll in just so that you can see just this node here. And I keep trying to drag that. Okay, so this is going to be the shadow node. So I'm going to choose shadow here and shadow for the map or the image. And I'm going to connect. But, where do I put it? This is where we're going to extend this a little bit more. So I'm going to add another mix shader. So I'm going to go to shader, mix shader. And again, once again, this color node goes on the top. This color node goes on the bottom, and this alpha face goes into those faces. And this one now drags into the bottom of this mix shader. So it looks a little twisted, but if you look at this, you'll see the pattern, okay? Bottom, top, top, like next layer up goes into the bottom, but this one, because it's got another layer above that, is going to go into the top, and then this into the bottom. The last step is being able to switch between layers. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, let's see if it's going to let me do it. Not from that end, huh? Okay, so I'm going to split this area here. So I'm going to make part of this window the node window and the other part the UV editor, just so you can see how this changes, okay? And you do that by just right clicking on that where it has when it has the arrow, okay? So I'm going to drag this down. I'm going to make this window smaller so that my editor, my 3D window here is bigger. Okay, and I don't need to go, I can go, okay. I am going to first select this middle one. This middle one here is your shirt layer. And I'm going to go over here and make sure that that's highlighted and the camera is on this layer, on the shirt layer. Then I'm going to go from object mode to texture mode. And this is going to be the shirt layer that I'm going to texture on. Now up here you see my tools. And I'm going to switch this to mix, which is usually the default. And I'm going to make a green shirt. I'm going to turn my radius down, and my strength is turned all the way up. And I think maybe that is getting in the way. So I'm going to delete that one because I didn't use it on the other one. Uh-oh, what did I do? Alright, well for the moment, I'm going to take this one out of the equation. And I'm going to put this back in here so that you can see. So I have that extra one turned off just for the moment, and then I'll come back to that. So as you paint, you can see that it's coloring just this texture, and you can see exactly where your seams and everything are. This is just going to get you your basic shapes, make sure everything's nice and straight, and it allows you to see just where you're painting. You scroll in, you condense or refine where exactly you're painting at. So that gives you the idea of how this works. And if I go to this window, you can see it did not paint on the skin at all, just the shirt layer. I want to perhaps add this other layer back in and see why it was switching for me here. So I want to take the color and put it there. Maybe I've got this backwards. I may have to do, nope. It's something to do with the faces. Let's see. Alpha. I might actually have to have that shader diffuse. Because I don't think you can have two. Maybe that's it. Nope, you can't have two. Well, according to this, it didn't untexture that paint. Such is the problems with this. Probably because it's not saved. Okay, take that back off of the shadow. Okay. Now, why is this being fussy? Oh, wait. This color still needs to go here. Not so much there. This face needs to go there. This one needs to go here. There we go. it does sometimes matter what order it was linked in. And I don't know why it does that, but even though the setup is exactly the same, it's still being fussy about what order you linked it in. So sometimes you have to come down here and play with the nodes until it behaves itself. Okay, so if that happens, you just come down here and play with the nodes a little bit. So now I'm going to go, first of all, let me turn off paint mode down here because I don't need that on. So go back to view there and go back to object mode. This is the final step in this tutorial, is how do you switch from one texture to the other and know that you're painting on the right texture. The key here is leaving the texture mode and going back to object mode, and then changing which image you're on. So I want to paint on the shadow image. So I'm going to select the shadow node here and the shadow UVs there. And I'm going to turn the camera on that particular level, on that layer. Then I'm going to go back into texture mode. And you can see you're not looking at the green on this down here because that's on a different layer. You're actually on the shadow layer. Now I'm going to turn that radius back down, and I'm going to go back to mix. I'm going to switch this, so I'm going to use a black, and I'm going to turn the saturation or the strength, basically what would be the opacity in Photoshop or GIMP, and I'm going to turn it down very, very low. And let me take that shadow down a little more. Okay. Then I'm going to move. Oh, I got some splotches, but that can be fixed very easily. I'm going to move and add some shadow in here by painting this in. And you can see that it's just lightly adding it. You can turn the strength up if it's not dark enough for you. And then you'll start getting darker shadows. You can maybe give her some 6-pack in here, whatever you need to do. If this was a guy's shirt, you'd probably have those shadows in there. And what I really want to show you is that this did not make any changes to this window. So as you're painting on here, it's not changing this window. It's only changing this one. And now, if I wanted to change back to the shirt layer, you can't just go in here and try to change the nodes and think that you're going to be on the shirt layer. Because what's going to happen is you're still on the shadow layer. So if you, for any reason, accidentally paint on the wrong layer, as long as you don't go too many, create too much history with it, you can use Control-Z to undo. You literally, though, have to leave paint or the texture mode. And you see, I still have shirt and shirt. Now, if I go back into texture mode, it now popped open the texture mode. And if I paint on here, is it still painting on the shadow mode? The shadow window? Let's look and see. It's not. But it's so light you can't tell. So hold on, let me back up a second here. I'm going to turn the strength all the way up so that it's easier to see. So there's my line, and you see that it painted on the on the shirt layer. So the way to make sure that you are painting on the right layer is to always leave texture mode and select which one you want to be on, and then go back in. Leave texture mode, select the windows that you want, the shirt layer that you want to be on, and then go back in to the texture mode, and you will be painting on the layer that you want to be painting on. Alright, well, that is all I have for this tutorial. That teaches you a little bit about how to set up your nodes and paint on layers using Blender. Thanks for watching. I hope that this has helped, and leave me any comments or questions. Thanks, guys. Bye.